Hi, welcome to MGID Talks India. We are here to discuss something exciting, that is audience engagement and monetization tactics for digital publishers. With our special guest, Mr. Amitabh Bishnoi, Vice President Digital Marketing, Express Network Private Limited, the New Indian Express Group. In the past, he has worked in marketing with companies like Sahara India and Dainik Jagran, and also has an entrepreneur stint for 6 years. He has lived, experienced, learned, and evolved himself in the most refashioned past 21 years of media industry. Hi, Amitabh. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Pankaj, and thanks a lot for having me on the show. It's always wonderful discussing with you. It's not just brainstorming, but quite a learning, I would say, discussing with you and the MGID team as such entirely.
So, thank you. Let's start off with to first understand what is audience engagement. The term has always been important for the digital publishers. Audience engagement includes a wide range of activities. Like audience engagement in marketing can be defined as digital activity that indicates a user spent time with the content, explore a website more deeply, or took a part in the interactive process. So regarding audience engagement for digital publisher, it can be simply defined as to the extent to which website visitors are interested in the content or actively involved in your content over the period of time. And enhancing audience engagement is the most important because engaged users are more likely to return to your website for consuming content, and they return more often to the website, visit more pages during the sessions, and are more inclined to sign up for a newsletter. And mostly, as most of the publishers are testing a subscription-based model, it is most important that they are more likely to convert to paid subscribers. Simultaneously, revenue paid ad is also boosted because advertisers are willing to pay more for the position. So, when we talk about audience engagement and monetization tactics for digital publishers, can you tell me how has the content consumption pattern of the users has changed post-pandemic? As we can say that no pandemic is over.
Very interestingly put by you. Audience engagement is actually different for different type of publisher. In fact, I would say within a web content also engagement has multiple definitions. Commonly, if I have to put it in a single line, I would say that interaction with specific content. So within a publisher website like ours, it could be with the website, with the content, with the news content, the video content, or I would even say with the advertisement content. Because when we are talking about revenue also, that is extremely important. So engagement is definitely a very, very important aspect that every publisher has to focus on. We've seen, like everybody else, we've seen some huge, tremendous growth in terms of consumption of the content during the pandemic. Post-pandemic, also we have seen some corrections happening. What I personally see, and it's also visible from the market as such, is that there are certain things that had its own spike. They have corrected themselves, but there's a considerable growth. There are certain areas where there is a spike, and that spike is still continuing. So, for example, basically to put, there has been spike in some area, and somewhere there are certain things that are there to stay for a longer time. So for example, I would say that the English content, if you are saying, we had seen some tremendous spike initially, and there was a correction in terms of new users, if I have to speak, and that has been across the board, across the news consumption pattern across the country. Even when we monitor all the other websites. But vernaculars are doing extremely well. Post-pandemic, we've not just seen new people who were not very much consuming news per se on the, they might be consuming entertainment content, not consuming news content in vernaculars. They are migrating a lot to this thing. And we've also noticed that a lot of people who were consuming English content have also started consuming or have migrated to vernacular content. So that is something wonderful that we are noticing. So this, if you have to see the media consumption in India, if I have to speak, we noticed that similar pattern in the print. We had noticed a similar pattern in the English, in the television. There was initially a growth of English, and then vernaculars catch up, and then vernaculars tend to become a very very big, strong force in the entire market. They have a strong share of their pie in the market. We are experiencing that in the media content itself. Now, again, defining engagement from multiple perspectives, from the advertiser perspective, I would say, or rather from the user perspective, I should first say, is that there are certain things that are here to stay for a longer time. That we have seen that pragmatic shift that has happened, and e-commerce, we have seen that a lot of preferring to purchase from e-commerce rather than going to the brick and mortar shops to purchase. I think that a spike that had happened over there is here to stay. Uh, we've seen a lot of people. They since the lifestyle changed quite a bit during the pandemic and the lockdown. We've seen that people started exploring their interests, uh, maybe out of choice, maybe out of uh, problems that they were facing. One such area where we've noticed huge growth, and I was reading one reports from the YouTube, is that learning to cook or any other learning process per se, this thing has grown quite a bit. So these are habits that I believe, that are going to stay for a longer time. Similarly, education, edtech has, I think, gained hugely out of the pandemic,
Right.
and edtech is, I think, here to stay for a very, very, very long time. And uh, why this is, as a news publisher, why this is important to us is because we are dependent upon the way people purchase in the market, right? So with the growth of e-commerce, uh, we definitely are seeing that interest of the advertisers also getting hugely impacted, and in a good way for us. So they're now very serious about advertising digitally. And I don't mean the bigger ones and the people with not just the people with lot of inputs and knowledge of digital. We've seen some very small level of advertisers who are now completely focusing on digital. Now that's a welcome change. That's a welcome change that we are seeing. So we as a group also we do a lot of affiliate marketing for a lot of our advertisers, and we've seen some tremendous growth over there. That itself reflects, and we are seeing some very small retail based advertisers who are coming out and reaching out to us, asking for how we can develop them, their markets, their e-commerce, and help them through affiliates. That's a welcome change. That's a welcome change, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. All the categories you mentioned. And I think during the pandemic, most of these advertisers or most of the content consumption was happening on newspapers was not available for a brief period of time. People were actually scared to get, newspaper at their house and what will happen. And most of that shift happened from, a newspaper to digital. And we see that different content interests also coming up during this time. It is also observed that user attention span on the article has been dropping. Do you think this is because of the other content formats or devices or shorter content formats?
I think we have to see a much bigger picture over there. So
Mhm.
type of content and how it is written or how it is presented is mostly market driven. Uh, so I think it is to do with more of the Gen Z uh, and the younger generation, the teens, and now people who have between the age of 20 to 30. Uh, they form a larger chunk of audience in the digital scenario, digital consumption scenario, right? And these this generation per se is some generation with has a very, very short span of attention. And so what happens is that uh, the service provider will always cater to the requirement of the audience, right? And thus we've seen that shift from the publisher content and the right from the tech aspects to the content writing format, or the even I don't know how the device really comes into this picture, because we'd seen a longer span of attention even in mobile or small screens earlier also. But I think it's more to do with the generation. So once the demand of the audience is such, the content creators tend to start creating the content which is more suitable to the audience. And uh, you know I also strongly feel that they are big influencers even on the elderlies. Okay, not just that the elderlies are already time pressed because of their various uh, other commitments in their daily life or daily routine. Uh, when they see the younger people consuming content in a different format, that actually hits them subconsciously. And with the publisher also providing, or the content creators also providing them content in that format, uh, that habit, they are attacked in two ways, and the habit changes. So it's more to do with the habit change in the audience rather than the content creators actually creating content and going in that format.
Yeah, definitely. As we say that, there is too much of noise around us as an individuals also. Like you have, if I search on Google for particular news, I will see there are some, 10 or 15 different articles which has been shown, or different content, maybe in the form of video. So there's a lot of choice which is available because everyone is looking for engagement. And because of shortage of time, digital was in a world wherein everyone wants and quick information, don't have to actually read so much of information, and now everything is available in a shorter one. So video is also picking up. In the last 2 years, we have seen the content consumption on the video has increased drastically. Also shorter format content, like we don't have articles which is more than 1500 words now, but it is restricted to 400, 500 words, and try to disperse the information. But yeah, there are people like, you say customization. So if you look at the younger audiences between to 20 or 30, the content is being created in a very shorter format. But people who are a different age group, same content piece is also created in a longer format with a lot of infographics. So customization has also, played a very big role, and that is sort of, improve the time spent on the websites also. So when we talk about different audiences, so what are the essential metrics to track audience engagement? How do you track their engagement levels on the website or on the digital?
So again, there cannot be a single tool that I can actually speak of. Video has to be tracked separately. Text content has to be tracked separately. Uh, I would say, of course, advertisements have to be tracked separately. Again, it cannot be a single format of tracking for the all age groups. Uh, so just to go back to your statement earlier, that people have a lot of formats that are available to them, and they. So what we've noticed is that while the time is a big factor, the time spent on digital content has increased tremendously. So it's not that I don't think the time in entirety is it's a small it's a, I would say, a hurdle. It is not. People are spending a huge time on over digital. Uh, they are not spending time on specific content. So what they do is they get the information, and so it's more than deep diving. People are now getting into a more information based kind of working. So they will go check one, then immediately go into second, then go into third, then go into fourth. So that is something that we've seen as a pattern. which is quite common in across all the type of content, whether it's a text content, whether it's a video content, or so on and so forth. Uh, so I wouldn't say that there is a tool, or I can't define a tool. What is extremely important is to understand the customer's journey, and that is, I think, what has been happening from years together, and that is what. So it's extremely important to understand the customer's journey, and you have to actually what you have to divide them in various segments and understand how that segment's journey is, and that is what gives a much clearer picture rather than a uh, taking the holistic picture, because that you will not be able to create. So again, like you very rightly put, there are contents uh, which are in shorter and they're in the same content in the longer format as well. This very much there in videos. What we also notice in the text content is that there are certain set of audiences which like to read first 2-3 paragraphs. There are certain set of audiences which like to read uh, the longer formats. So the content per se has to be designed in that fashion, which you're able to, one is you're able to cater to the needs of both the audiences. And there's a very, very, very clear demarcation, especially to do with the geo preferences, with geolocations and age groups, where we can very clearly see that, okay, this is the set of audience that is a shorter content audience, and this is the set of the audience which would prefer a long content audience. Videos, definitely, we have seen quite a shift, a strong shift towards the shorter content.
I think maybe largely when you talk about the metrics, time spent on the website is one of the important metric one looks at, and that's how the internal recommendations of all the publishers are also based out. Say, if I'm coming to a website, the biggest challenge with all the publisher is how to retain me, how I should spend more time on a particular portal, on the particular content. So that is one thing. Personalization is a second form. So larger way personalization can't happen to a very deeper interest because of the data, but still based on the interest or buckets which is being created within the overall crm of a publisher, that can be another aspect of looking at things. Yeah. So when we talk about this, as you mentioned, there are not multiple tools which are available. There are different formats. So there are a lot of challenges. So what are the challenges faced by publishers with regards to user engagement?
So understanding, reading your audience is the key challenge that we face. It's very much a key challenge that we face. So we so what I really can't dwell that, but yeah, what we are doing is we are building in a lot of AI technology. Okay, we are building in a lot of AI technology to understand our audience better. Uh, see, we are understanding an audience and segmenting them. That is the toughest job, and that is the key to success, I would say, because all your tools would then start performing better and giving you. Tools are basically garbage in, garbage out. So basically, if you're not giving them the right input, you will not get the kind of desired output that you would want from the tool. So what is important is to understand and segment your audience very well, and not just understand them within your environment, but to understand their digital footprints across the environment outside your maybe a news website or your social media platforms. So there are that is the key factor. So once you start understanding your audience, then you will start tweaking your CMS and start providing them with whatever customized solutions that you can give. So, for example, you can always create widgets which are totally driven by your AI, and which will start recommending content which is relevant to the user who's interacting with your website as of now. And we've seen some huge benefits from this. In fact, one of our websites, especially it's a Tamil website. Many. We've seen some engagement of almost. We have an average engagement of 8 to 10 minutes per user. So that is, I think, wonderful when it comes to news websites. Uh, but and it's not just us. There are multiple people who are doing. Why I'm taking the figure of our website is because I can very confidently speak about it. But that is the only way. If we are trying to put everything into a single basket, it's going to be very difficult. You will have to customize your basket. You will have to segment it, and then create, then tweak your CMS as per the each of the segment.
I think the perfect example of segregation is in the publishers, especially for the horizontal publishers. You have various information, like there's a sports section, there's a news sections, there are different sections. So segregation is already being created there. Now, one of the biggest challenge which comes in for the people is like for publisher is balancing audiences and advertiser expectations, and it has become increasingly difficult, adding to the complexity that there is no shortage of platforms or the content, and each promising to deliver better results that one that came before them. So how do you balance between audience engagement and advertisers expectations?
So I think the answer to that is the same for the publisher, the user, and the advertiser. Uh, Advertiser would always want an engaged user, because that is a real user and a real buyer. Uh, so the quality of the audience makes a lot of difference to the advertiser per se. And for a publisher also, a user engaged user is always better. So we have always noticed that when we are focusing totally on our user, we see our revenues also growing multiple fold. So in fact, we did an exercise of reducing our ad units by 50% in a phased manner, and we saw the revenues grow exponentially. So it is not so basically the advertiser is willing to pay for a good quality of user rather than what it would pay for a mere impression, and trying to work out as to whether it will happen or not. So there are that is extremely important. It's extremely important that you start providing the a good user to your advertiser rather than anything else. Having said this, then there are multiple formats where you can earn revenue. It's not just plain vanilla advertising. MGID is in a business of that, where they are providing readable content in a revenue format. Uh, there are so we are doing affiliate, which are totally which is totally content based. There is no banner ads in that. So we actually, and we're doing extremely well. The reason is because we are providing them with content which user wants to read, and it's a search based advertising that we focus on. Naturally, the quality of content is far superior than what otherwise is. So we notice, where somebody would have actually, paid about an X amount in a display format, they are ready to play X plus in that format, because they are getting the quality user. So I think what is extremely important is to understand what is the user requirement, and not only that helps in engagement, but it also helps the advertiser a lot on getting a quality users. I think native advertising is also one of the very strong formats, because unless and until the audience is actually interested in reading about it, they will not click it. That makes a lot of difference. So that means you are getting the quality, the audience which are actually looking forward for a particular product in that format. So yeah, so we actually strongly focus on are user rather than the advertiser, and we have noticed that the advertiser then lands up paying us much more than what they would have otherwise paid, and we land up getting what. Simple example is, we do not. Video is a big revenue channel, right? But we do not put videos as a floater or video player as a on our home section or on our section pages. It's very systematically designed. Only if the audience is interested will the volume come. It will not be on a muted format. And we have seen that the advertisers are very happy with us.
Yeah. So, you touch upon, various revenue streams. So if you can tell me that in what ways can digital publisher diversify its revenue streams?
Okay, so there are multiple formats. I think that would require a complete different session altogether. Yeah, I can speak on that for days. That's a very big topic. Um, Firstly, more than the number of content, I think a publisher should start focusing on yield.
Mm-hmm.
Unless until you focus on yield, you will not be able to get a good engaged user, because I think that is a strong, uh, I would say, indicator to whether your your user is actually engaging with your website or not. Because if a disinterested user is coming into your website, neither is it good for the user nor is it good for your advertiser. And an interested person with advertisements which are again of their interest, which would again come when you're segmenting your audience very well, would be extremely beneficial for your advertiser. It would be extremely beneficial for your user. Yield is a very big indicator, both from perspective of improving engagement in your website as well as improving revenue in your website. Like I said, more than the number of advertisements that you are showing, it is important what is the quality of advertisement that you're showing and what is the output that you're getting from a particular ad unit. And there are multiple ways that you can improve your yield. Now, of course, you have banner videos, you have innovations, XYZ. Um, Affiliates is something that one can focus on. One can strongly focus on natives. Natives is something, again, I feel not only help in increasing the engagement of the user, engagement in your website, sorry, engagement on your website, but again, connecting the dots. It's a bridge between the content or the advertiser's content and what user prefers. So that's something very nice. I think one needs to focus strongly on that.
Yeah. So, it was very good insights. Like you said that, there are multiple ways in which one can look at monetization. Paywall is also, the latest trend in the, Indian publisher segment. Like most of the publishers are thinking to go, behind the paywall, and a lot of experiment basis. So this is also one of the stream which is being taken by thing. So it was very interesting to discuss and to understand more from the publisher standpoint, that how you can engage with the audiences, and especially it has become so difficult to engage with the audiences with the content, and direct traffic is being reducing for maximum publishers. So it is a company needs to have more than a great content, and aesthetically appealing conduct, or the content which is more required by the publishers. So thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you here, and we have taken a lot of insights, and got a little bit deeper into the various type of content or engagement or revenue streams one can focus on during our conversation.
Thanks a lot, Pankaj. Thanks for having me here. Have a good weekend. Take care. Bye.